I mean, first, it is quite rich to hear Rabbi Shmuley complain about anybody interrupting. He's pretty much a three-trick pony. He's either interrupting, or he's lying, or he's smearing people
ad
with the most
hominem.
racist
Are you really going to get into ad hominem this early in the debate? Do you really have to personalize it? Deal with the facts, please.
There's the first
Stop
trick.
the ad
That's
hominem
the interruption
attacks.
trick.
Go ahead.
He's demonstrating it.
Please don't do the ad hominem,
He's demonstrating his first trick for you right now. In fact, Piers, frankly, if your audience watching at home were playing a drinking game in which they took a shot every time he either lied or interrupted, half of your audience would be dead before the program is ended.
This is just ad hominem. Do you know facts or not? Do you want to debate fact, or do you want to insult me?
Are you going to keep interrupting? Are you going to keep complaining about interrupting and then do your own interrupting? Are you just going to demonstrate your hypocrisy to everyone on television?
Here we go. Hypocrisy, liar. We know what you think about Jews. Debate the facts. Forget the evil me and debate the facts.
Unbelievable level of hypocrisy right now by continually interrupting when you don't like what you're hearing.
Try and stop.
Honestly, I'm so excited for this debate. It just came out a few days ago, maybe 1 or 2 days ago on Piers Morgan's show, because I hate Rabbi Shmuley and I love the other two. I'm really excited for this one. So my editor watched the whole interview, got the highlighted moments for everyone here, so you don't have to watch the whole entire interview on Piers Morgan's channel. I know a lot of you hate that channel. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to my channel. If you really want to help support, become a member. It's only $2.99 a month, and you get to watch all of my content before everyone else and save me from getting demonetized. Now let's continue.
Yeah, I'll set the insults if that's even possible with dealing with people like you. Now, Rabbi Shmuley actually fully understands that the reason why there's no electricity in Gaza is because Israel. Can you be quiet? Can you be quiet and let me?
This is Rabbi Shmuley's trick. Like, he's just talking about how much he hates Rabbi Shmuley, and Rabbi Shmuley just makes it into, oh my God, the hatred you have for Jews. Like, no, sir, it's just you. You're an idiot.
Finish what I have to say. Rabbi Shmuley knows extremely well that the reason why there is no electricity in Gaza is because Israel bombs the infrastructure in Gaza and then puts Gaza under siege and does not allow Palestinians to rebuild their own power plants. They've created a situation of dependence where Gaza cannot survive on its own economically. It has to depend on Israel, and that is by design because Israel wants to be able to shut off the electricity at any point. Rabbi Shmuley knows this, but he tries to play on the uninformed audiences. He takes them for fools and hopes that they won't be able to see through the idiocy that he's actually demonstrating right now.
So now I'm an idiot.
Anybody with a functioning brain will understand very well that the reason why Gaza is not free is because Israel prevents it from being free.
Google more personal insults.
I wonder if anyone actually takes Rabbi Shmuley seriously, because right now he said the idiocy that Rabbi Shmuley shows. He didn't call Rabbi Shmuley an idiot. I did.
You can't deal with a single historical fact that I said, so you've called me an idiot, hypocrite, a liar. Let me tell you something. See, this is what we call classic antisemitism.
You think your narrative is made up of facts? Are you kidding me?
I quoted to you the Peel Commission, the UN, the Omer deal. You cannot respond to a single one. So what do you have to do? Ad hominem, ad hominem, ad hominem. Deal with me as a person and try to suppress your hatred for Jews. Thank you.
Yes, quiet down. Yeah, again, the smear of anti-Semitism. That's the second trick. Really, if people are taking shots, I mean, try to keep track of how much alcohol they're consuming at this point. So the reason why there has not been a Palestinian state, and by the way, if you're going to pull up Bill Clinton, that's fine. By all means, why don't you try pulling up Jimmy Carter, who's been very clear about the fact that the reason why there has not been a resolution to this conflict is because Israel insists on maintaining an illegal occupation of the Palestinian territories and denies Palestinians any freedom. And so you hear Shmuley here claiming that Israel allows Palestinians to be completely free and have full rights, but that is belied by every single major human rights organization in the entire world. And so Shmuley was basically saying that you have to believe him and Israeli propagandists when it comes to the issue of human rights, instead of believing our own eyes, instead of believing major human rights organizations, and actually documented facts of what is unfolding on the ground. And that is that Palestinians have no freedom, no dignity, no opportunity, all due to Israel squeezing them under a brutal occupation and looking for ways to get rid of them. That is at the core of the so-called conflict.
Okay, Rabbi Shmuley, you don't speak for me. Accusing people like my friend Omar of anti-Semitism simply because he wants the freedom of his people, it saddens me to see what people like you have done to the Jewish.
The Palestinian activist that's speaking right now, he's also Jewish, by the way.
Jewish tradition. The suffering of my family, my great-grandparents perished in the Holocaust. They were murdered by the Nazis. And today, I have to tell you, I see you as the modern day followers of the Nazis, supporting this mass murder campaign in Gaza, putting the people of Gaza in what even Israelis have called a concentration camp. It's the Israeli Jews of today, supported by American Jews, unfortunately, some, that are following in the footsteps of our oppressors. And I hope one day you can connect to your own humanity and the very best of your own tradition, which I believe in, to see just how horrible this modern state, this modern supremacist state, is not only for the Palestinians, but the Jewish people as well.
You can't seriously be saying that Rabbi Shmuley, one of the most high-profile Jews in the world, is a successor to the Nazis.
Is a Nazi.
I mean, that's a pretty despicable.
I am saying that.
That's a pretty despicable thing to say, isn't it?
He supports the mass murder of children in a concentration camp. What else am I supposed to?
May I respond to that? May I respond?
I think you should respond to that.
These are Nazi tactics.
Aaron.
These are Nazi tactics.
Aaron, I want to say something to you, Aaron, if I may, respectfully. I believe what you just said about me as a Jew, comparing me to a Nazi, will live in ignominy, respectfully, on your resume forever and ever and ever. I think you have now permanently undermined any and all semblance, iota, molecule, atom of credibility. Because if you can compare me, if you can compare me, father of 9 children, grandfather of 11, who has fought his entire life for...
Whoa, pause. This guy has 9 kids and 11 grandkids? Okay, that is something I did not know. Dang.
Arab rights, who when I was the rabbi at Oxford got halal meat for all of us, including the grandson of the King of Saudi Arabia, who today is the British ambassador, the ambassador court of St. James, Halal ibn Bandar, the niece of the King of Jordan at the time. I have worked my entire life for Arab rights. And I will say something that I bet Omar, I'll challenge him to say it. Let me ask you, Omar, you're a Muslim, I assume. Will you make the same statement? Is Judaism as great a world religion and equal before God as Islam, yes or no?
That goes without saying. For the record, by the way, I'm agnostic. But yes, I have no trouble acknowledging the fact that...
But thank you, I appreciate that. So we're making some progress here.
Well, let me ask Omar, let me ask you... Hang on, Omar. I want to ask you a different question. Would you endorse what Aaron said, though, that Rabbi Shmuley is a successor to the Nazis?
I'm a Nazi.
I personally don't...
Low-key, I kind of find that sad that Omar is agnostic. I did not know that.
Really care much for Nazi analogies, but I will point out that Rabbi Shmuley is the one who invoked the Nazi analogy first in talking about Gaza. And I just want to say that if what you're doing is defending a government that is credibly accused of genocide by every major human rights organization in the world, and whose leaders
what do you mean
are
genocide?
wanted by the International Court.
Do you know the definition of genocide?
International Criminal Court.
Who coined the word genocide?
Can I finish my sentence?
Yes, please. Forgive me.
Have you ever let anybody else finish a sentence while complaining about interrupting?
Well, let's stop the ad-hominem. I apologize. Go ahead, please.
The Israeli government is credibly accused of committing genocide in a concentration camp in Gaza. If we're talking about sectarian violence, there is no greater sectarian violence than the fact that you have people between Netanyahu talking about the Amalek, between the Israeli soldiers, celebrating this genocide on TikTok. You can read endless statements from them. If that's what you're supporting, the massacring of people in a concentration camp, you probably should be the last person to invoke Nazi analogies.
So then I am a Nazi. Do you know what Winston Churchill was guilty of in the Second World War? 1 to 4. So you'll say that was non-precision, but it's not true because Churchill bombed at night because he didn't care about how many civilians he was killing. And the Americans used a special locator. They only did precision bombing during the day. America in Mosul under President Obama. That was a 1 to 4 combatant to civilian ratio. I could go on. Israel has the lowest civilian to casualty ratio.
There is no way Israel has less than a 1 to 4. There is no way.
In modern times. And finally, you're speaking about the most densely populated place on earth. So, Given that,
no, that's not true.
Let me just finish, please. Given that Saddam Hussein killed 800,000 Arabs, given that Bashar al-Assad killed 600,000 Arabs, and given that even according to Hamas, Israel killed 47,000 and half are, and every one of them was too many, by the way, they're all Hamas's fault, and half are combatants. So you're telling me the 23,000 who are only killed as they live because Hamas puts their bases, their army bases, in kindergartens and in nurseries and in hospitals. That's a genocide. That's the purpose of targeting of an ethnicity. Read about Raphael Lemkin. He was a hero. He got the 1948 anti-genocide agreement to which 183 nations are party to. And by the way, to all my Irish friends who are watching who accuse Israel of genocide. Ireland signed a document that said that if a genocide is going on, they have to accept all those people guilty of it, suffering under it, into Ireland. Do you know that Ireland hasn't taken one Palestinian refugee? You know that Britain hasn't taken, I think, like 100 refugees? If it's a genocide, why aren't you clamoring for all the nations to finally take them in? Because you don't really believe it.
It's very brief. First of all, the rate of the killing of civilians in Gaza is unprecedented. Yes, there are other civil wars throughout the Arab world in which more people cumulatively were killed over a period of many years, but the rate of killing Palestinian children, especially in the opening months after October 7th, they were killing 136 children per day. That is a number that is unprecedented, now leading into the tens of thousands of Palestinian children. So we are seeing a rate of killing and destruction that is actually unprecedented, and it is demonstrated not just when we talk about the people.
This is actually one of Omar's better episodes. He's actually doing a pretty good job of making his points here. I've seen other episodes where people were kind of speaking over him. They wouldn't really let him talk, but he's shining here today. He's shining.
People in the West Bank and Gaza voted for Hamas. And how did Israel and the U.S. respond? Not being generous to Gaza, as Rabbi Shmuley falsely claimed, putting it under an inhumane, crippling siege, depriving it of all the basics people needed to survive. Even certain types of hummus were banned from entering Gaza under Israeli rule. That's the benevolent Israeli occupation that Rabbi Shmuley wants us to believe in. The reason why Hamas turned to armed resistance against Israel on October 7th is because they tried all other means. When Palestinians launched the Great March of Return in 2018, tens of thousands of people marching peacefully, they were gunned down by Israeli snipers. When Hamas leaders accepted the Arab League peace proposal of a two-state solution, accepting just 22% of Palestine, their historic homeland, Israel said they wouldn't even discuss it. So that answers the question of why Hamas has turned to armed resistance, because when they've tried to pursue the diplomatic path, Israel has ignored them. And that's the fundamental problem here. Rabbi Shmuley mentioned countries in the region that don't have electricity, whereas the other other countries thrive. Well, all those countries that Rabbi Shmuley mentioned, Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, they share another thing in common with the Palestinians. They've been relentlessly attacked by U.S.-Israeli aggression for years. The Iraq War, for example. Syria, Israel's stolen the Golan Heights, is currently stealing more territory today. Lebanon, Israel invades in 1982, kills tens of thousands of people.
Yeah, no one's talking about Syria, how Israel's just taken over the Golan Heights, which was disputed territory for a very long time. It was not allowed for them. As soon as Syria's government changed, that was the first thing Israel did. No one spoke about it in the media. No one.
Occupied it for many years, recently undertook a new round of massacres. So if Rabbi Shmuley cared about the people of the region and all Israel apologists, what they would simply do is say, for the first time in our history, we're actually going to accept the right of Palestinians to have their own land, not come up with these fantasies of ethnic cleansing, which Israel has tried to do since its founding in 1948. Say, we're actually going to recognize the rights of Palestinians to have self-determination, which everybody in this world has. And the reason why they don't accept that is because they're a Jewish supremacist state founded on this idea that Jews are superior, have a biblical right to all this land, and that's why they're pursuing their current path.
Aaron, let me ask you this.
That was actually an excellent description of what Israel actually is. It's a supremacist state that believes they are entitled to this land because they're God's chosen people. And the crazy thing is that they are actually forcing their religion on all of the people around them, all of the Arabs, the Muslims, basically. They're forcing their religion on them. And they actually accuse the Muslims of doing that. Oh, they just force everyone to become Muslim. No, Israel is actually forcing everyone to believe in what they believe in, which is we are God's chosen people, so we deserve this land because God told us to. So like the other people around them that say, hey, we don't really believe in that, they're like, yeah, we don't care. It's still our land.
All right, Aaron, ICE has arrested the Palestinian leader of Columbia University's anti-Israel protests. Many people think this is a violation of free speech under the First Amendment.
It 100% is a violation, but I respect Piers for what he just said. He said anti-Israel protest. If you check the media, it's so annoying. Everyone calls it a pro-Hamas protest, which it's not. You know, the media did a great job of changing everyone who was a pro-Palestinian, anti-Israel protester into all of a sudden just pro-Hamas, like, oh, they're supporting terrorists. It's a very subtle change they made in the media, but it makes a big difference on someone who hears it.
Others think that given Hamas is a terror group prescribed in America, that they're perfectly entitled, this administration, to start deporting those who openly supported Hamas. What do you say about this? The guy's name was Mahmoud Halil, who's a Palestinian refugee raised in Syria. He was the lead student negotiator for the pro-Palestinian encampment at Columbia. And Columbia, of course, became a kind of epicenter of pro-Palestinian student protests then. Many Americans were genuinely extremely offended by a lot of the pro-Hamas sentiment and insignia that was being seen on these protests. And it looks like now the Trump...
He said pro-Hamas insignia. See, that's what I'm saying. They're conflating the two, pro-Palestinian and pro-Hamas, when it's not the same thing. And also, the pro-Hamas insignia that he's referring to, I'm almost positive he's talking about the Palestinian flag, which now is just considered a Hamas flag. It's unbelievable what the media did, and it's very unfair and disgusting.
Administration is moving on them.
Here's what you call pro-Hamas. I would just simply call anti-mass murder. That's what these brave Columbia students were protesting. And I think it's an egregious attack on free speech that a permanent resident with a green card, he's married to a U.S. citizen, she's 8 months pregnant, has been snatched from his home. He's not charged with anything. No one's indicted him for providing material support to Hamas or any other group, because this whole action is simply political. It's an attack on free speech. These students who put up these encampments on campuses last year, I think that was one of the most courageous acts of moral conscience that we've seen in the U.S. in many years. And it outraged the
bunch of students just shouting and yelling outside. It's not that courageous. I think the point that people are making about why it was so offensive and egregious was the open, brazen support that so many of them seem to have specifically for Hamas. If you were there protesting...
No one did, though. That's the thing, Piers. Has he been to any of these rallies? I don't think so. No one openly supports Hamas like that. Everyone is just very anti-Israel for what they're doing.
Supporting Palestinian civilians, okay, the Palestinian people.
That's what most of them do, you idiot. Like, did he go to that protest? I almost guarantee that was not the case where they're just supporting Hamas.
But the moment you are directly endorsing and supporting a terror group, surely all bets are off then. Why should America allow you to remain in the United States if you're endorsing a terror group? Secretary of State Marco Rubio said on X about the arrest of Mr. Halil, said, we'll be revoking the visas and or green cards of Hamas supporters in America so they can be deported. Many Americans will agree with that.
Again, first of all, you have the right to free speech to support whoever you want. You can support Hamas if you want to. Now, I went to these encampments.
But you can't endorse terrorist activity, can you? Well, that's inciting terrorism.
There was an endorsement of the right to resist military occupation, which is internationally recognized right.
But if you endorse Hamas's behavior, you are endorsing terrorism, which is a crime, isn't it? If you promote and incite
no, it's not a crime.
Terrorism,
that's why he hasn't been charged with it.
He hasn't yet.
If it's a crime, then why hasn't he been charged with it?
Let's wait and see.
He hasn't been charged with it.
Let's wait and see.
Well, he's not going to be charged with it because this is an attack on free speech.
Okay, well, Rabbi Shmuley, an attack on free speech, many have said that. What do you say to that?
Deport him now, because he's not promoting free speech. He's promoting incitement to violence. Hate speech is actually outlawed in the United States. I love the First Amendment, but you cannot incite violence for people to be attacked. Now, when they go to these encampments in Barnard or Berkeley, they're not just protesting. They're calling for intifada now. They're calling for for violence. They're calling for the murder of Jews. And they are endorsing Hamas. Aaron is being disingenuous. So many of them openly they have no shame telling the AP, telling CNN, Fox, MSNBC, that they are absolutely pro-Hamas.
To say,
I personally have never seen that. I'm sorry. If anyone has a clip or something of someone saying that on live television, I personally have not seen that.
I was pretty stunned you said that, Aaron. I mean, to actually directly say he's a successor to the Nazis, given his history as a high-profile Jewish man and his family's history, I mean, that's about as an appalling an allegation you could make against anyone like Rabbi Shmuley, isn't it?
Not nearly as appalling as supporting a genocide, frankly.
And if I can answer,
names is one thing.
Well, two things can be true at once.
If I can answer,
Aaron, yeah.
He invoked the Nazi Holocaust to actually say we should not be negotiating with Hamas, who he compared to the Nazis. And my point was, if we're going to be making analogies to the Nazi Holocaust, and the fact is you have a Jewish supremacist state that believes it's superior, has more rights than the Palestinians of that land, has put the people of Gaza under a medieval siege, subjected them to mass murder, put them in a concentration camp. And in that respect, that's where the analogy to, of course, no analogy is perfect. I'm not saying that Israeli crimes are on par with that of the Nazis. Nothing compares to what the Nazis did to the Jews and other groups.
So was it fair to say he's a successor to a Nazi? I mean, seriously.
I'm saying my point was, if you're going to be invoking the Nazi Holocaust, the current successors to the Nazi legacy of supremacy and mass murder are Israel and its apologists.
Yeah. Trump's world vision for Gaza, the Riviera. Let's take a look to remind ourselves how Trump saw this. He reposted an AI video on Truth Social.
Bringing the light for all to see. No more tunnels, no more fear. Trump Gaza is finally here. Trump Gaza shining bright. Golden future, a brand new light. Feast and dance, the deal is done. Trump Gaza, #1. Trump Gaza shining bright. Golden future, a brand new light. Feast and dance, the deal is done. Trump Gaza, #1.
Now, it's been roundly ridiculed, that obviously, but the effect of it is exactly what I thought might happen, which is it was such an outlandish idea that Trump had that all the Palestinians would simply leave and you'd build a new Riviera there and so on, that it's forced the Arab world to come together and to come up with an alternative plan, which they now have, a $53 billion plan for the post-war reconstruction of the Gaza Strip. You know, sometimes you have to look, as I say, Trump will take things to the nth degree to force people to a negotiating table to actually get stuff done. I mean, do you see a bit of method to the madness there?
Yeah, I'm not entirely convinced, to be honest, that this kind of vision is part of the reason why other countries were pushed to come up with a plan as quickly, maybe sped it up, came up with it a little bit faster. But the only plan that you need for Gaza is for Israel to get the hell out of Gaza, and just whatever happens from there happens. It's just not Israel's business. But Piers, I don't want this segment to end without me addressing the student issue that you mentioned a little bit earlier. Because this kid, Mahmoud Khalil, has basically been smeared by the Trump administration, by Marco Rubio on Twitter, by accusing him of being a Hamas supporter and a terror supporter.
Well, is he?
This student has said nothing of the kind. He's guilty of being a part of a protest in which people are protesting genocide, and then maybe every once in a while somebody might say something that is off-putting or awful.
But how do you know he's not a Hamas supporter out of interest?
Wait, isn't it innocent until proven guilty? Just a few moments ago, Piers was so confident that he said he's a Hamas supporter openly. So now he's like, oh, how do you know he's not? This is just disgusting, Piers Morgan. This is below even you.
Nobody has.
Because what you did is you just accused someone of a crime, which you're not even sure that they committed. And now they're getting kicked out of a country. They went to an Ivy League school, Columbia, like it's a really great school. Their wife was pregnant, and you just got them kicked out of the country. How do you sleep at night with that?
Made any allegations or presented any evidence that he has said or done anything.
You just said Marco Rubio did. You just said the Secretary of State of the United States did.
Yes, without any evidence. Without any evidence is what I'm saying. There's no evidence against him.
But there's an important point of distinction. I mean, if he's going to be deported for supporting Hamas, you do surely have to present evidence that he has supported Hamas. I don't think leading a protest group where most of them behaved peacefully and were not brazenly supporting Hamas would be enough, in my eyes, to justify what would then be surely an infringement of his First Amendment right. So until that changes the law, is that if you were to endorse Hamas violence, that would be a crime? Yes, fine.
Just one more thing, if you haven't already, make sure you like this video and subscribe to my channel. We are one of the fastest growing channels in this niche. I don't really know anyone else who gets more views than us. Just make sure you like and subscribe, become a member. It really helps out. Now let's finish this.
Omar, we got
I still think that's free speech, actually.
Just last word. The smear against this one student is built on the other smear, which is that these protests are somehow anti-Semitic, when many of these protests are led by progressive Jewish voices, Jewish
but there was anti-Semitism amongst the protesters too. I saw it.
You have to be kidding. Jewish students were beaten up, sat on.
Some of those protests were,
but the double standard.
Some of them were definitely anti-Semitic. I saw it. So there's no question that.
Yes, but there's a double standard in that pro-Israel demonstrations where they attack. We've seen them on video at UCLA, in which pro-Israel
UCLA is the only example you can give because it's the only place where it happened.
Out of pro-Palestine protesters.
I think we should all support. We should all support the right